Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. And in this segment of our show, we're going to be talking about a simulation gaming method, which is a sort of informal education. And we'll be knowing more about this issue with our guests here at the studio. Andreas Muckenfuß, he's a director of CRISP, an NGO in Germany, and May Seoud, senior program specialist at CDS Egypt. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good morning.
A very good morning to both of you, and let's start immediately with the definition. What's simulation gaming method?
Yeah, this goes to me. So a simulation game actually is a model of reality. So we try to create a certain scenario, fictitious or realistic scenario, that in its very center has a certain problem that has to be solved, and then our participants, they step into the roles of decision makers, and inside these roles they try to solve the conflict or the problem that's part of the simulation game. And usually they are very creative and they come up with very innovative ideas how to solve the problem. And then after the simulation game we try to transfer this newly gained knowledge into reality.
Right. What's so unique about this sort of informal education?
It's very unique in different ways. First of all, you can have as many challenges, as many different ideas, as many different problems as possible. The characters are very interesting too, because you don't just focus on one sector of society, for example. You have different set of characters, and every time you play the game, even if it's the same game, even if these are the same characters, people play it differently, because people have different perspectives, people have different ideas. We can both have the same character, but then you have a different approach to solving the problems. So you never actually get bored. Like, we watch the same game like 100 times, and it's every time a different end, a different solution, a different approach to the game.
If I may add to that, maybe. The interesting thing is that the participants themselves inside the game, they take the decisions. And so every game, as May was mentioning, has a different course of development and has a different ending. So this makes it so interesting that the participants take their own decisions, and then they have to also face their consequences out of their decisions. And all this happens in a safe environment, so it's really inviting the participants to experiment and to try out their own ideas.
So everyone can do that? I mean, everyone can play. I don't know if the verb play is accurate. Is it to play or to practice or to
participate in general?
Or to participate.
Yeah.
I mean,
but still it's a game. The idea is still to enjoy learning,
I mean,
to have fun.
A certain criteria, or everyone can play.
I mean, if you allow. If you design the game right, or according to your target group, almost anyone can play the simulation game. So it really depends on the design of the game, and my organization CRISP, we have been developing simulation games for diplomats or local authorities over there in Germany. We have been working with peace workers and other professionals. Here in Egypt we mostly focus on the target group between 18 and 35 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so not included. Okay.
But you can always play the game, you're welcome.
No, still we just have to develop a new simulation game. And of course, it depends a lot on the design. So we take into consideration the educational level of the participants, their socioeconomic backgrounds, of course. But as I said, if you design it accordingly, then almost everyone can play the simulation game.
When did this kind of simulation game, or this type of informal education, when did it start, and where, in which country?
Very good question. So we have been cooperating since 2012, my organization CRISP and CDS here in Egypt. And since then, we are working together and have developed several simulation games. And we are currently working on a simulation game that is targeting the local council elections here in Egypt, which is really interesting because many people don't know actually what local councils are and how they operate. So while taking part in the simulation game, they learn a lot about what is the local councils, how do they operate, what are their duties and their rights on the ground. So it's a very interesting simulation game we have developed.
We have already developed around 7 games here in Egypt, each game focusing on a different topic. We had a game focusing, for example, on women empowerment or the challenges women face in society. We had another game about decision-making mechanisms, how to encourage someone to make a decision, what kind of decisions are at hand, the consequences of making a decision. We try to focus on different topics that are very interesting to youth nowadays in Egypt, as well as topics that we feel people need to know more about, people need to think about. And that is basically one of the reasons we decided to talk about local council.
Yeah, and the simulation game method, also to come back to your previous question, who can take part in these simulation games, it's very useful also to address those who are maybe struggling in dealing with such a complex topic like local councils. Also for us, it took us several weeks to find out about local councils, and then to have all this knowledge and to transfer it to someone else, to pass it on. That's actually difficult. So using the simulation game method also allows younger youth here in Egypt, or people that have less educational background, to actually deal with such a complex topic, and that's a very nice aspect of the simulation game method.
And are all the topics that serious? I mean, it's a political, economic stuff like that, or there are cultural issues, for example?
Cultural issues, definitely.
I mean, to be included into the programs you are developing.
Definitely. Issues as well, like for example in the game that we were playing about the challenges women face in Egypt, one of the topics that were at hand during the game is, for example, inheritance. Sometimes women are not given the same rights when it comes to inheritance or education. A lot of times we see that young women are prevented from seeking education, or even asked to stop at a certain level. So this was another topic that we discussed during one of the games. It's basically cultural, social. I would actually say that most of the topics are related to that. And then sometimes you have to talk about the economy as well, for example.
How can youth have access to this kind of games, and what are the simulation games suitable for the youth?
During our project, or like while we were working on a project, we tried to have partnerships with as many youth organizations as possible. We are working with different organizations, NGOs, youth groups, to encourage them to take part. And then when we start talking to like one person, we ask them to introduce the game to other people as well. So that is how we're actually like having access to different governorates at the moment. In each governorate, we have a group of people that we work with, and each and every time we go to play the game, they introduce us to more people. But right now, people can access.
Or the dominoes effect.
Yes, people can access the games through one of our main stakeholders, the NMF.
Yeah, sure. NMF is Nadi Al Mukhaki Foundation. This is a pool of trainers and facilitators here in Egypt. We have around 50 trainers and more than 100 facilitators from 23 different governorates. And NMF is our main partner when it comes to implementing the simulation game. And coming back to the question who can participate or how they can participate, the most important criteria is motivation, that young people actually do care about their community, and they really want to change something and increase the quality of life. And we know that there is a lot of motivation among Egyptian youth. We know that from our survey that we have conducted last year. So it shows that the vast majority of the young people between 18 and 35, our target group, they really think that volunteerism and engaging with your community really has a positive impact. And so it's not a lack of motivation, that's definitely there. That's what we see in our everyday work. It's more about facilitating them in order to be more effective, actually, to have something concrete they can work on. And this is what we try to do with our work. So if we have motivated young people out there, they should feel free to apply and join us.
And is there a certain site that they can apply on, or?
The NMF website.
It's simclub-eg.org, or via YLead.
Yes, and then we have a Facebook group as well, YLead, as Andreas was saying, or they can just access the CDS Facebook group and then send us a message, and then we can introduce them to the NMF and they can take part in our games.
Which should be easy to find, actually, by now.
And it's very interesting to know that you are here for 7 years now, meaning that you've witnessed a lot of changes. So there are a lot of changes which took place on all aspects. That means that بالضبط. Okay, now Andreas wants to speak Arabic more than anything else, but it's great. We do appreciate that. Meaning that you develop the simulation games according to the changes which are taking place? In a way, at least?
Sure, in a certain way at least. I mean, as you were mentioning, the scope of our activities has changed over the years. And we are very much happy how it developed over the 7 years. So when I was mentioning right now, we are operating now in 23 governorates. We started with 5 governorates, so it increased over time. And I think the most crucial factor for that was the trust building that took place during these years. Trust building between our organizations, of course, but also with the participants, with our plenty of local partners we have in the governorates. So things need some time to develop, but we have reached a certain stage where we are a very, very stable network, and yeah, we are looking forward to implement this current project YLEAD and maybe even other projects in the future.
And also I would like to highlight the fact that it's not us who develops the games, it's some of the participants as well. So they come up with their different perspectives, their different experiences, and then they basically highlight that or shed light on these different experiences through the development of the game. So we perhaps have a topic, or we come up with a topic, or we make them vote on different topics, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are going to develop the games. So they need to have their heart in the game. They need to be on track, they need to be on point. And
to add to that, and it's also of course crucial that these games actually fit to the realities of the participants. So we also don't know exactly the single cases that take place in small villages over there in Upper Egypt. So we have the participants, and all together we share and try to create one universal model that applies in all the different governorates, in Upper Egypt, in the Delta. So we try to find some average for our scenarios, so it becomes playable for all the participants, no matter if you are from Delta or from urban areas or rural areas. And this has worked out pretty well, actually. We are extremely proud of NMF, our Nadian Muckenfuß Foundation, who did a great job over the last years.
Right. Did you ever measure the outcome of these games on the participants? Does it meet your expectations?
We do have different forms of measuring or different methods. We have a pre and post test, basically, when it comes to topics that we need to assess how much they have learned about after the game. We also have evaluations that we conduct. Some of them are focused on the emotions of the participants, how they feel after they're done with the game. Others are focused on their participation. Do they feel like they have participated effectively? Do they feel like their minds have changed after playing the game? I personally would say, and I'm not trying to be over optimistic about this, but I would say that yes, they changed a lot. And proof of that is that many of the people that have started with us 7 years ago continue to partake with us, like during the games now, and they introduce us to more people to take part in the games. They have never stopped. They still have their heart with us. They still want to do more. They still want to introduce the game to other people, and they tell us that through the games they have changed their perspective regarding so many things.
Yeah. So in the frame of YLEAD, we are about to implement 150 games, simulation games, all over Egypt. So we are not done yet, but according to our pre-results that we have so far, that the general impact of the simulation game is that, as I was saying, the motivation is always there. Many times, usually it's there, but how to use that motivation actually. And the simulation game helps them a lot to, first of all, feel themselves on the right track. So we encourage them to engage actually, to become active participants. And then on the next level, then they go on further and they see to what extent I can concretely participate effectively in my community. And it's a great encouragement, first of all, and by knowing much more about these community work and who are the stakeholders, makes their life a bit easier when it comes to engaging and volunteering.
Right, Andreas Muckenfuß, Director of CRISP at NGO in Germany, and May Seoud, Senior Program Specialist at CDS. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And you have the right to be over-optimistic, by the way. We were very lucky to have you here in this episode, and we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our breakfast show.
Thank
you very much for
input, and
have a very good day.
Have a nice day.
And by this, we come to the end of this special episode of our breakfast show. Stay tuned only on Nile TV International always for more. My name is Nermina Abdurrahman, and I had all the pleasure to have with me my dear colleague, Naveen Ramzi. Thank you, Naveen.
Thank you very much, Nermeen. Dear viewers, tomorrow a new episode with a new crew.